Boxingego here. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon on the top of your screen to get notified when the latest new content drops. What up, fight world? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Today is Monday, which means Boxingego's Monday Mail Day, MMD. Coming off the heels of a good fight weekend in the UFC, we had Daniel Cormier versus Rumble Johnson 2 main event, and then in boxing, we have Vasyl Lomachenko, as you see on the screen, versus Jason Sosa. One-sided beatdown, great performance, and Lomachenko stays a champion, and he does it impressively. So, a lot of you guys left long questions today, so I'm going to get right into it. I put a thumb next to the questions I'll be answering. There's a lot going on in boxing, and I'll do my best to answer it. If I didn't get to you this week, try again next week. First question comes from Random Commenter. When have you started to notice HBO shit commentary? Now, for me, I noticed a while ago that HBO's commentary seemed extremely biased. I don't know the exact time frame, but it seems like it's degenerating. It's like getting progressively worse to me in terms of you could tell who the hometown fighter. Like let's say I wasn't a diehard boxing fan and I clicked, I could tell who they want to win. You know what I mean? If you're watching Chocolatito versus Carlos Cuadras, they're calling it like it's almost like it's not even a competitive fight. But I guess if I had to try to pick a point, I mean, I've seen it during Floyd Mayweather when he was on there, definitely with Pacquiao, like the Tim Bradley one. First of all, I had Pacquiao winning. I had Pacquiao winning all the fights, just to be clear on that. Two, I don't work for any of them. I don't work for HBO, Showtime, Al Heyman, Top Rank. I work for myself. I wake up when I want to, and that's the perks of putting in the work and kind of being your own boss. But I don't have an allegiance to like where I just call it how I see. You know what I mean? HBO, I understand promoting. I understand promoting a product. People on your network, you're not going to go out of your way to bash them or make them look bad, but you can still be fair. And I think Showtime does a better job of that. Like, if Floyd Mayweather, for example, is having a tough fight with Maidana, it's okay to say he's the bread and butter of the Showtime network when he moved over. It's okay to say Maidana's won that round or something. You know what I'm saying? But you don't really get that with HBO. You hear Harold Letterman's cards on close fights, and he's not giving it any rounds to Carlos Cuadras. No rounds to Michael Hunter. You know what I mean? You give him one round, really? It's crazy. But yeah, Pacquiao, I would say, would be one of the early memories I have of HBO's commentary not being up to my standard or whatever. Jim Lampley in that first Bradley, he almost lost his shit when the decision was read and they just kept going. It's like almost rude. It's like kind of like a poor sport and like salty when the person they don't want to win wins. Like when Ward beat Kovalev, it's like they were mad. You know what I mean? When Bradley beat Pacquiao, it's like they're mad at Bradley. Everyone at ringside had Pacquiao winning. Okay, but you guys aren't official judges. You know what I mean? And to be real, even though I had Pacquiao winning, I don't think he looked good. I think Pacquiao, some of his more lackluster big name performances to me were against Timothy Bradley in the first fight. He didn't look good. He was fighting in spurts. And then Marquez 3. I don't think Pacquiao really looked himself in those fights. But I thought he did enough to win versus Bradley. But versus Marquez in that third fight, I had Marquez winning. You know what I mean? He was off to a slow start. He was going through a possible divorce with Jinky, so maybe his head was all over the place. I don't know. But wasn't his strongest performances to me. You know what I mean? And HBO didn't give a damn. All those fights Juan Manuel Marquez was complaining about, he beat Pacquiao and he got robbed, and especially in that third fight. I thought out of the fights that Marquez lost to Pacquiao, those first three fights, I thought that was the clearest win for Marquez. The first one, a judge messed up on the tally, so it was a draw, but it should have been a Pacquiao win. Second fight, very close, but the third fight, I thought Marquez won that fight. You know what I mean? And HBO, it's like they want to rep and take stands for certain fighters, like Pacquiao, oh, you've been robbed, and it's like they're blaming Bradley. He didn't do the scorecard, so the commentary, aside from Roy Jones, has been, at times, you don't even pay it. I kind of zone out. I don't really need HBO to tell me how to think. I know how to break down fights, and it's very apparent who they want and who they're rooting for and who's the breadwinner, and they don't even try to hide it anymore. So that's kind of what I've seen from recent HBO commentary, but it dates back. Next question, Owen Brown. Boxingego, why isn't Terrence Crawford number 2 and even in an argument for number 1 pound for pound? He's undefeated and dominant in all of his victories. He has more fights and much better resumes than both Lomachenko and Chocolatito Gonzalez, and he's one of the most avoided fighters in all of boxing. Yet boxing aficionados and hell, even his own at HBO curve him for other fighters that have accomplished much less. Now, I give him as much props as I humanly can, and that's why I've shelled out the cash to cover his fights. You know what I mean? This is a business, but at the same time, it takes money. I can make money not going to fights. I probably, you know what I mean? Because I don't have to pay for a hotel for a week or 4 days or a flight. You know what I mean? I can make money just talking boxing from home. But I want to support. I want to give you guys the Johnny on the spot coverage and things like that. Crawford's a great fighter. You've never heard me personally say. I can't really speak for HBO and what they do. But to me, and I think someone asked a similar question, I might be able to expand more on their question. But I think there's this notion from promoters and also HBO that black fighters don't really have a market and a fan base. Like a black fighter's fan base is not going to be as supportive as Michael Conlan's fan base or this person's fan base. And I don't really think there's a way to scientifically prove that. You know what I'm saying? Without stereotyping. So you have to give these fighters an opportunity. Terrence Crawford, I don't know if I would have him in terms of skill. He's up there. I mean, he's definitely up there. I don't know. That's why I don't even do pound for pound lists, to be honest. But I agree with you as far as what you're saying. Crawford far more accomplished than Lomachenko and Chocolatito Gonzalez. You got to look at it. Crawford has X amount of fights, 20, 30 fights, whatever it is, right? And he's still undefeated with some good names in there. Lomachenko doesn't even have 10 fights yet. He doesn't even have double-digit fights, and they're saying he's the best ever. Your amateur career means nothing as a pro. Audley Harrison was an Olympian, but he lost every big major heavyweight fight. Wilder knocked him out, you know what I mean? And he has more of a medal than Wilder as an Olympian, you know what I'm saying? So that doesn't matter. It's good. It obviously brings experience and stuff like that. But if your Olympic or amateur pedigree, like I'm not saying it doesn't matter in terms of grooming and getting fighters ready, because it does that. But what I'm saying is guys don't care, because the pro game is the pro game, the amateurs the amateurs. You think people are going to fight you different because you have a certain amount of amateurs? No, that is not. It doesn't work like that. So obviously I do believe having amateur experience is definitely a pro, and it's a positive for your career. But what I'm saying is Salido didn't care that Lomachenko had 2 gold medals. Was he going to be starstruck? He's coming to win. Salido got knocked out a gang of times early in his career because he turned pro at 15, like Canelo. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm trying to say is guys don't care about that, your amateur pedigree. So in 10 fights, you can't tell me that, I mean, you could do whatever you want, but it doesn't make sense for me to have guys like Lomachenko and say, even though he looks phenomenal, he still has a loss in less than 10 fights, and he has not avenged that loss. So you can't tell me in 10 fights he's done more than Andre Ward, who has 30 fights. You know what I mean? 30 plus fights or whatever. Terrence Crawford, who has fights. Terrence Crawford actually beat an Olympic gold medalist in Yuriorkis Gamboa, and he's finna fight another one at Felix Diaz. Lomachenko is the gold medalist 2-time, might I add. Who's his Olympic gold medalist that he beat? You know what I mean? Gary Russell didn't go to the Olympics. Salido learned in Mexico on the job, turning pro at 15. Several losses. Gamboa, years after Gamboa already beat him. Years after Mikey Garcia beat him. So these are great performances, and it shows you that it's amazing and impressive that Lomachenko in less than 10 fights, he could still beat these guys. But name a guy like a Gamboa that he's beaten, guy who is a gold medalist and undefeated. Exactly. You can't. You know what I mean? You could say they're a good fight. Gary Russell Jr., that's a solid win. Nicholas Walters, that's a solid. These are solid wins, but at the same time, I wouldn't expect anything less from a 2-time gold medalist. But when you're the gold medalist, or when you don't have, Terrence Crawford don't have a gold medal, and he beaten a gold medalist in Yuriorkis Gamboa, and if he beats Felix Diaz, you got to give it up to him. So yeah, I can't I like Lomachenko. This is in no way, shape, or form throwing shade at him, but I can't say I would rate him if I did a pound for pound list. I can't rate him above Ward because he's been impressive against guys like I said. It's kind of like Golovkin. Who had Golovkin beat prior to Jacobs that you would say is an undefeated threat with momentum, had an amateur pedigree or a gold medal or silver medal like him, punching power, you know what I mean? His toughest fight, some people think he didn't even win that with Daniel Jacobs. So, I don't know. And Chocolatito, that's cool. You moved up 4 divisions. Cotto did that too, but he has a deeper resume than you. You know what I'm saying? So how can it, that's why I don't do pound for pound lists. It's all subjective, and people ultimately place people where they want. But Crawford should be up there. Skill for skill. He doesn't have any losses, and he's beaten better competition, like you said. Guys like Gamboa, guys like Victor Postal, and if he beats Felix Diaz, I mean, this dude's a monster. Next question, Ali Diego 619. Do you think if Spence beats Brook in dominant fashion, he should be rated the number 1 welterweight in the world, or should Thurman still be considered number 1? I mean, again, it's kind of like a pound for pound list. This is why I don't do it. To me, this is how I'll break it down. For me, if Spence beats Brook in dominant fashion, as you're saying, he is the number 1 welterweight to me. I would picture him, if he can beat Kell Brook. I actually think Kell Brook is a harder fight for Spence than Keith Thurman. And that's no shade to Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman's a hell of a fighter. He has more belts. He has a better resume now that he's fought Porter and Danny Garcia. So a better resume than both Spence and Brook. But that's just my opinion because styles make fights. I think Brook's style is harder to beat. So if Spence does in fact beat Brook in a dominant fashion, he's the number 1 welterweight to me. But I wouldn't argue if someone has Keith Thurman because he has more straps and he has at least 2 big name wins. 3. I really like the Diego Chavez win. That he was an interim champion, he was undefeated, and he came to scraps. So between that, Sean Porter, and Danny Garcia, I wouldn't be mad at someone if they had Keith Thurman. I'm just telling you, me personally, I think the winner, whether it's Kell Brook or Spence, to me, they're the man to beat at the welterweight division. So that's just my honest opinion on an assessment. Next question is from Camacho Family. Do you think there is room in boxing for the radical fan? Like the ones the Raiders have, the Yankees have, the Boston Celtics, etc., etc. Seems like the fans that are ride or die for the boxers they like are really looked down on or talked about bad. I even heard the term decaf. Why do you think that those kinds of fans are accepted? Why do you think that those kinds of fans are accepted and even expected in those sports? I guess you're saying, expected in those sports. But with boxing, it's like there's no room for them. Do you think if they were more tolerated or even educated the way you do, there would be more fans of boxing? That's kind of a tough question because it's, to me, of course there's room for them because they're not going nowhere. Boxing has always had casual fans. I mean, when I take a Uber, like when I travel to different cities to cover these fights, and people are like, "Oh, what are you here for?" Like tell them from California or whatever. "Oh, what are you in Cincinnati for? Why are you in Omaha?" I'm taking Ubers and stuff, and I tell them, I'm like, "Hey, I do YouTube. I cover boxing," and a lot of people are like, they want to know more. Like, "Oh, that's weird," and it's the same. They're like, "I love boxing." Like a lot of people tell me that. They're like, "I like boxing." Yeah, Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather, Pacquiao. That's all they bring up. So to me, boxing's always had that. I'm sure every sport has casual fans like that. I think the reason they don't get respected in boxing is because boxing is a secret society. Like real boxing heads, they expect you to know some shit. You know what I mean? It's just any type of tight-knit community, like a hip-hop community, a battle rap community, things like that. People want you to know your shit. And if you don't, then it's like you're out of the loop. And I think that's where a lot of casuals, there's room, they're here, they're not going nowhere or whatever, but they usually do the most talking, right? And they usually say these radical things that can't be justified. So I think that's why people are intolerant to them. You know what I mean? I seen people, literally, this is a true story. I talked to a guy right after, on my Instagram page, right after Tim Bradley versus Ruslan Provodnikov. Great fight of the year. Bradley was definitely pushed. I talked to Bradley personally a couple months back. The interview's on the channel. And he told me his toughest fight, bar none, was Ruslan Provodnikov. So you give it up to Ruslan Provodnikov. I had Bradley winning. I thought after the concussion and he got some sense knocked into him, he started fighting right and started boxing using his strengths. And he outboxed Ruslan, cut him over the face, stuff like that. Nonetheless, it was a good fight, right? The guy on my Instagram was like, oh, Bradley robbed him. First of all, the judge made the decision that Bradley won. Bradley didn't turn in his own 3 scorecards. And the guy was like, Bradley won. And I'm like, okay, what rounds did you give Ruslan? Right? And he was like, I'm just Bradley won. Okay, what rounds did you give Ruslan? And bottom line, after come to find out, this guy told me he didn't even watch the fight. Right? He said he's seen the highlights. That's a highlight fan. You're not a boxing, you're a highlight fan. If you can't, you know what I mean? It'd be one thing if you watched even 6-7 rounds of it and then left or whatever, but you can't even judge it like that because you don't know what happened in those additional rounds. But that would be better than watching somebody's Instagram snippet, which Instagram at that time, you could only do 15-second videos or some shit. You couldn't do a minute. You know what I mean? You watching highlights talking about who won. That's, to me, a lot of casual fans do stupid shit like that. And then the guy was like, yeah, but I don't have to see it. I still seen Bradley had a glass chin. Like, this is nonsense. If he had a glass chin, he would have been knocked out. Getting hurt by a puncher is not a glass chin. Getting hurt by someone who no one else in the division is getting hurt by, and you're getting wobbled and drunk, that's different. You know what I mean? But if you get hurt by every single puncher in every single fight, then that might be something different. Bradley got a man-style chin. So that's why people don't have tolerance for casuals. They say stupid shit, and like I said, they're usually the biggest and loudest talkers in the room. And boxing is a secret society, if you will. When I meet people that are boxing fans, I'm like, oh, wow. And I talk to them. I'm like, damn, this person really knows their stuff. It's actually a breath of fresh air because a lot of people just peek their head into boxing. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't really think there's a right or wrong answer. There will always be casuals and people who think they know what the fuck they're talking about, but don't. But it's just, that's why I think they're underappreciated or whatever you're saying in the comment, is because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And if you do know what you're talking about, or you're a fighter, or you're a person who studies boxing and this is what you live and breathe and your favorite sport, then of course you're not going to understand what they're talking about when they don't know what they're talking about. It's always, oh, he ran and chicken and name calling and stuff. Nobody has time for that. Break down the fight. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even care if people say Kovalev will beat Ward. I don't think that. I had Ward winning. It's a close fight though. You know what I mean? But the people, oh, it's a robbery and Ward's a coward. And what are you talking about? How's he a coward for moving up in weight and even taking on this bully and even fighting back? And then people say stupid stuff like he ran. He was fighting in the pocket. How did he run? I can understand even in the Canelo-Lara fight. Lara did, I don't even use the word running like that, but he did use unnecessary movement and let go of his offense. Ward didn't do that. You know what I mean? So it gets redundant and irritating talking to too many casuals that clearly don't know how to judge boxing. Next question, Owen Brown, boxing ego. Although I'd love for every fighter, no matter color, race, or nationality, to get a fair shake, for some reason, boxing has always been at its best when everyone gets a fair shake, when the best fight the best, and no one trying to snake the consumer. People are not stupid no longer, and the numbers don't lie. Golden Boy, K2, Top Rank, and even HBO need to get with the program and make boxing great again, no pun intended. Now, I highlighted this, not really a question, but I agree with you. Fans aren't stupid. People like Canelo, Chavez Jr., I think it could do good numbers because it's still intriguing enough of a fight. We know what Chavez Jr. is good at. We know he's big as hell. We see him flexing for the gram and in the sauna looking diesel, right? So these are all good signs that we may get a good fight. So Chavez Jr. definitely has a chance in my book, right? Even though Canelo is the more technical fighter, more skillful fighter. But Canelo, Liam Smith, of course the numbers aren't going to be great. Canelo, Amir Khan, of course the numbers aren't going to be great. Boxing fans aren't stupid and they have more accessibility to these fights. So 2017 has been great. And it just needs to keep doing it because you'll see better results. Brook and Spence did a great amount of tickets in the first day. That's because it's a compelling fight. I doubt I never remember hearing headlines of Kell Brook versus Jojo Dan sold 18,000 tickets or 13 or whatever the number was. You know what I mean? Because nobody gave Jojo Dan a chance. And UK fans are loyal, but they'll still turn up and turn out for some real shit, for a good fight that they've been wanting to see. Owen Brown has another question. Boxingego question. Is it me or HBO putting all of its chips in on Eastern European fighters? It's not just you. Is it to supplement for lack and somewhat the extinction of the white American boxer? In other words, are Eastern European fighters America's new version of the Great White Hope? Yeah, I definitely think that is part of it, because the reason, it's not even think, I know. And the reason I know is because look at the promotion behind fighters from different areas that have a light pigment. You know what I'm saying? Like Michael Conlan, he's from the UK, he's not Eastern European per se, but red carpet rolled out. You know what I mean? He got the fight in front of a demographic in New York on St. Patrick's Day weekend, where it's already busy in New York. I was out there. It was crazy. It was lit. Green everywhere. Irish fans everywhere. And he got to fight his pro debut. Conor McGregor walked him out on a historic day, you know what I mean, a St. Patrick's Day, which is obviously an Irish holiday. And he's Irish, you know what I mean? Red carpet. Shakur Stevenson from Newark, New Jersey, East Coast, is fighting on Top Rank's undercard, right? On Oscar Valdez, Gilberto Ramirez, two guys who are based out of Southern California, right? I don't think Shakur Stevenson, last time I checked, I don't think he trains out in Southern California for most of his camps, right? So Shakur Stevenson's fighting in SoCal. You know what I mean? Not on the East Coast. So it is what it is. It's apparent. HBO especially. Top Rank, I think, also. And I think for whatever reason they feel the black consumer won't support or don't have a built-in fan base. And if you're Pacquiao and Filipino, they feel like you'll support. You know what I mean? And I don't know. Maybe, you know, to be honest, maybe there is some truth to it, because you got to look at it. Gennady Golovkin is from Kazakhstan. Pacquiao is from the Philippines, right? And you look at it, those are like the biggest stars that have crossed over on American soil. You know what I'm saying? So I can't think of multiple Gennady Golovkin level fighters from Kazakhstan. You know what I'm saying? Like, name another fighter from Kazakhstan that's as revered as Golovkin. You know what I'm saying? So the pickings are slim. So they know that Golovkin came over here and made a name for himself, and everyone from Kazakhstan is going to support that. You know what I mean? But when it comes to African American fighters, there's so many dominant ones, then maybe they feel like the fan base is not going to be there. Like, there's so many dominant African American fighters like Floyd Mayweather, Terrence Crawford, Deontay Wilder's still undefeated, Anthony Joshua, you know what I mean? Different guys like that. So I guess maybe they feel, actually the UK does it better. Like, if you could be purple and the UK is going to fuck with it. Like Anthony Joshua, you could be Muslim. So I like the UK. I used to live out there. Shout out. Can't wait to go back. So that's just my honest opinion. Yeah, HBO, they're putting a lot of stock. Top Rank too. They have the Mean Machine dude that was training with Robert Garcia. They're doing like these, you could tell it's like a high-end camera that they're using, and they filmed his undercard fight and put it on Top Rank's website. You know what I mean? And he doesn't even have like a big name as of yet, but it's like they're trying to grow his name. They have a triple header with all Ukraine friends and all, you know what I mean, Ukraine people in those top three fights, in fights where they were favored to win. You know what I mean? You didn't put the Vodstick in with Joe Smith Jr., who's fought on HBO, and that would have probably been a tougher fight, because I think even though Yuniskif Gonzalez, he looked good and I thought he beat Jean Pascal, after that he didn't look so great. I forgot which fight I watched of him. He didn't look that great. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, they're trying to build their brand and rapport. Same thing with Michael Hunter. I mean, he's undefeated, but he was also on the couch. You know what I mean? He hadn't fought in nearly a year, 11 months. So yeah, they're trying to build their catalogs and profiles, and I guess that's where they feel the money's at. I don't know, but it is what it is, and that's what I noticed. That's my honest opinion. Next question, Ivan Chubarikis. Hey Ego, Do you think that Loma versus Mikey is unlikely as their next fight? Next fight, yes, I think it's unlikely. Personally, think that the probability that he faces Flanagan next, even though I'd rather see Mikey fight. If I try to make an ego style breakdown, I would say these are my 7 reasons. And I'll leave it on the screen so people can read your 7 reasons. But for the sake of time, I will just answer your question. I might be wrong, but boxing politics have certain patterns that make some of our dream fights hard to make. Now, I agree with that, and I don't see it happening next because Lomachenko, he looked good versus Jason Sosa. Mikey Garcia is at a higher division. He's no Jason Sosa. You know what I mean? He's a champion, in fact, at 135. Plus, we all know the drama with Mikey Garcia's former promoter, Top Rank. That's who promotes Vasily Lomachenko. So even though they said publicly or something that they'd be willing to work with Mikey, it's anything to say something publicly versus actually doing it when the cameras are off. You know what I mean? Like Bob Arum kind of made it seem like he would fight Pacquiao and pit him against Mayweather back in the day, but I don't really think he really wanted to make the fight. So I don't know. I think Flanagan will probably be more likely a UK fighter, UK promoter, and a less dangerous fight to me than Mikey Garcia. Next question, Joshua Rodriguez. Do you think that the reason Loma is more fan-friendly? Do you think the reason Loma is more fan-friendly to the casual fan because he is more offensive? I think Rigondeaux has some crazy patience and will wait on his opponent to mess up, where Loma is more forward in offensive openings. Now, that's clear that anyone with eyes can see that, but styles make fights, and I'm telling you, this is the thing. You could say it's boring, like with the Rigondeaux situation, but if Joseph Igbeko, if Nonito Donaire, if they came and went for broke, they would probably get knocked out or knocked down or whatnot. So you can't blame Rigondeaux because people see the level of skill and they get gunshot. That's what happens. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, put it this way. Let's say you were about to break into somebody's house, a B&E, right? And you were going to try to rob them. And then you get to the gate and you see two big ass pit bulls. And they're growling. Like, you know what I mean? You get closer and they get louder. Like, right? You're going to think twice about trying to get past them to get into the house to get the jewels. You might be like, fuck that. There's this other house up the block. Let's try that one. That's what happens when these skilled fighters start getting to you. You know what I mean? You see the 2 pit bulls at the gate, and then you assess how worth it is for you. Lomachenko, yes, he's more offensive, but he gets hit. I mean, he gets hit more for taking those chances, and he also has a loss where Rigondeaux doesn't. So, I mean, it just depends where you slice it, but you can't fault one person for fighting different. That's like, to me, Canelo would be almost unstoppable if he had faster feet. If he can move around the ring like Lada, plus do everything he does, then he'd be almost unstoppable. But styles make fights, and that's not how he's built. That's not his DNA. That's not who he is as a fighter. So we have to kind of just accept that. You know what I mean? I can't be like, oh, Canelo's boring because he can't catch Mayweather. I mean, Zab Judah fight was more intriguing versus Mayweather because Zab had the speed to keep up and the southpaw stance to keep up. Canelo did. I mean, styles make fights. So it's like, it's ridiculous. It doesn't even make sense to compare Loma to Rigondeaux. I mean, I like to see him fight. You know what I mean? See who's the better of the amateurs. But at the end of the day, different fighters do different stuff. So, I mean, at the end of the day, that's just the way it is. Like Ruslan Provodnikov. Who would you rather be at the end of a fight, Rigondeaux or Ruslan? Ruslan's pissing blood. His face is cut up and beat up. You know what I mean? And Rigondeaux could go home and talk to his kids and less bruises. Different styles, different fights, and style make fight. And if people want more action from a counterpuncher, then bring the fight to him. Like Canelo, he's more of a counterpuncher. He's not reckless, quote unquote Mexican style where he's just gonna come forward mindlessly, right? That's why he struggles when boxers move on him. Austin Trout in spots. Edeslandi Lara, definitely Mayweather, the guy that beat him. Lara, I thought, beat him a round or two, right? But if you're James Kirkland and you just guns blazing, then you'll probably get chopped up. And you've seen what happened to Kirkland. Liam Smith, he unproven, one mode, and that's just to be tough and come forward. I seen his last fight versus Liam Williams. His face was cut and bleeding. You know what I mean? That's how he fights. You put him in there with somebody else, then it's a different fight. Styles make fights. And I'm telling you, if people want Rigondeaux to be more entertaining, counterpunch, then you got to say to your man, whoever that fighter is, like Leo Santa Cruz, keep pressuring Rigondeaux, even if he's touching you up and you think he's going to knock you out. Just keep putting the pressure on him. It's not going to be good. Joshua Rodriguez has another question. First time commenting on this Monday Mail Day, but I've been watching you for a clean minute. Now I actually got a YouTube account just to support the Ego movement. You the truth. Thank you. On to my questions. Do you think that the new weight for Canelo will even be a problem? Considering that he is reported to rehydrate to high 170s, so it's like he is used to fighting at that weight. Second question is, do you think Ward low-key lagging on the rematch with Kovalev was a strategy to kind of catch Kovalev slipping? What I mean by this is, I remember an interview with Ward. He's saying that Kovalev doesn't always have the best tendencies during his off time. It's possible. They say Sugar Ray Leonard did that with Roberto Duran. It's possible for the second part of your question, but I don't really think it's lagging. I mean, people, listen, do the math. I was at Ward-Kovalev 1 in attendance, media credentials, watched the fight live, went to the press conference, right? November 19th was the date of the actual fight. We found out in April, the beginning of April, because it's still the beginning of the month, that he's rematching and they're doing a press tour, which actually starts today. You get me? So I don't really think it's lagging. It takes time to prepare a fight. After a good, tough fight, I'm sure I talked to Ward after the fight and I was interviewing him and I said, where are you going to go on vacation after a tough fight? What are you going to do with the fam? He says, I don't know. I want to go on a trip, possibly to Jamaica. You know what I'm saying? You do all this discipline stuff in camp, 10-week, 8-week, 6-week training camp, whatever it is, cutting weight, all this. Then have a tough fight. I'm pretty sure you're not really worried about jumping back in the ring, Kovalev included. Plus, business takes time. If you guys, some of you guys don't, I recommend everyone start a small business. Like what I'm doing right now, this is a small business. You know what I mean? All my taxes and stuff. So it's a different responsibility when you have a business. And business requires the proper mind to make sure things are in working order. You have to manage yourself, you know what I mean? Different stuff like that. So bottom line is, a lot of people are, I did a video about this too, an Ego Valley video. I don't really think the Ward fight was lagging. We got notification from Rock Nation, from Main Events. I got the email in my email account, in my Gmail, that they were fighting within 5 months of the first fight. It's not really lagging. Him saying the retirement, maybe he was just trying to me, what that was is putting Team Kovalev in their place, because they were constantly bickering and like making memes and posting a bunch of stuff, Kovalev, about how he was robbed and stuff like that. So to me, that was just Ward G checking him and just checking him like, you know, I'll retire. You won't have an opportunity to fight me. So I think that was a little bit of posturing. But the whole lagging, I made a video, check it on the channel. It's Andre Ward finally decides to fight Kovalev. I don't think what do you mean? Pacquiao Marquez in the first fight, it took 4 years to get a rematch. Marquez was wearing shirts like I beat Pacquiao twice to get the third rematch. And from the second to the third fight, that was about another 2 to 4 years. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's more of a conspiracy theory, to be honest, about Ward was trying to catch Kovalev slipping. I just seen Kovalev on the beach and he had a six-pack and it was after the fight. So I don't really think you're going to catch Kovalev slipping. He knew that the rematch was likely. You know what I mean? So the only time I'd really see Kovalev slipping is if he didn't know when his next assignment was. But I think Kovalev knew he would get it, especially if he kept taunting Ward. So I think it's reading too much into it. First part of your question, Canelo, he should be good at the weight. Because like you said, he rehydrates. He's a big dude. It's less of a weight cut. It'll be easier, I think, because I think he was struggling a bit to make that 54 for Liam Smith. He had to do more. He had to diet more. He had to push that extra mile out. So yeah, it should be easier. The thing that's still intriguing to me about the Canelo Chavez Jr. fight is because Chavez, even though he's going to rehydrate and be comfortable, he's fighting a guy who's noticeably bigger still. So, still a good fight. Random commenter has another question. Why is HBO making everything pay-per-view when they know it's going to do low numbers like Golovkin, Lemieux, Pacquiao, Bradley 3, Canelo versus Khan, Canelo versus Smith, Cotto versus Kirkland, even Ward versus Kovalev 2? Why can't they make the meaningful fights like Crawford versus Postal, Kovalev versus Ward 1 and 2, Golovkin versus Jacobs on free HBO? Those are great matchups I would tune in to watch. It's so aggravating. Me, I don't work for HBO, so I don't know. This is just my opinion on it. I don't know inside details why they're doing it, but we all know they're going through budget cuts, and they may even be getting out of the boxing business, where if it's not a Canelo Chavez Jr. or David Lemieux versus Curtis Stevens that they know is going to deliver action, I'll pass. Like, you look at there's a triple header from Top Rank, a long time worker or a promotional entity, imprint, that has worked with HBO for a long time, and they've been turning down certain fights. Like Vasyl Lomachenko versus Walters happened the first time last year, the negotiations, and HBO, they weren't trying to put up no more money for that fight, so the fight fell apart, and then was later made for November. Same thing with they have a triple header with Shakur Stevenson, who just got out the Olympics, turning pro, Gilberto Ramirez coming back off an injury, who's a champion at 168, and you have a 2 appearance Olympian with Mexican American fan base, Oscar Valdez, who's also a champion. Top Rank pitched that fight to HBO, and they said, no, we don't want it. You know what I'm saying? We don't have no dates for you. So now it's going to be on Top Rank pay-per-view. So HBO, with their budget cuts, I think that's just really what it is. They're only going for Canelo Chavez Jr. It's going to make money. It's on a great weekend. They loaded up the card sufficient enough. Golden Boy, shout out to them. I'm looking forward to my dude Tino Avila versus Jojo Diaz. You're putting Lemieux, an action fighter, on there. It's going to do what it does. Main event has enough intrigue on a Mexican-American holiday, quote-unquote Mexican dates. So I think that's HBO's whole goal. Crawford Postal, they don't know how to do. So I don't know for a fact, I don't know their stats and stuff, but I just really feel like if you're charging pay-per-view and you do some numbers, I think it's more of a sure shot way that you don't lose money. You know what I'm saying? If you put Crawford versus Postal on, Postal doesn't have a big fan base. You know what I mean? Because even though Crawford Postal only did 50,000 buys or whatever it was, that was 50,000 buys at, let's say, $50-$60. You know what I mean? They might have broke even or made a little bit of money. But if they put Crawford versus Postal on regular HBO, and instead of other HBO programming, Game of Thrones reruns or whatever, comedy special, and Crawford Postal only did 550,000 buys, then they might lose money because they could have put something else there. So I think that's how it works. I think pay-per-view, as long as even though it's low numbers to us, you're like, damn, Golovkin's a star and he's doing less than 200,000. It's low numbers in terms of what we've grown to expect from pay-per-view bankable stars like Mayweather and Pacquiao and even Canelo. But I think it still helps them generate more money in a time of a budget cut, because Golovkin selling merchandise and K2 paying a licensing fee and this and that and advertisements or endorsers or whatever, even though it only did, let's say, 130 to 170,000, that's 150, 170,000 times how many people bought in HD and SD. So I think that's how it works, and I think that's why they're being greedy and putting everything on pay-per-views, because they're not taking any chances, which is a spit in the face to boxing fans, is because it takes money to make money. You can't foolproof this. For example, and I'm gonna just end it after this. I'm a small business. This is what I do full time. This is how I make my ends, right? And I can't gauge what fights are gonna be great for the channel to make the trip worth it. I could do my best to try to minimize the risk, but it never works. You know what I'm saying? So you have to take gambles. It takes money to make money. I've covered certain fights where I lost money because I couldn't really even get nothing. There was nothing popping, right? For example, I went to Denver for a whole week to get to watch the Brandon Rios versus Mike Alvarado 3 Top Rank fight. I was like, the first 2 fights were wars. There's no way this fight is going to be bad. I really didn't see it at the time. I was like, it's going to be a war. Got the credentials, flew to Denver, right? Mike Alvarado's hometown or whatever. The fight was a dud. They canceled the weigh-in. It was supposed to be a public weigh-in, but then the place they reserved was too small, and they only media with credentials or immediate family members were able to come in because the place was not big enough, and even people's like extended family couldn't get in because it was too small. So the weigh-in wasn't lit. You know what I mean? It wasn't, because the public always makes the weigh-ins better, right? That's just how it goes. And that fight itself didn't deliver. Alvarado quit, and it didn't even look like the first 2 fights. Alvarado, when he was leaving, people were throwing beers on him for quitting a second time at home. He quit in the Ruslan fight at home, and then he quit in this fight. They're spitting on him, cursing him out. Oh, you suck, and you're a disappointment. Plus, he was doing that. He had caught a case, got arrested recently in that camp or whatever. So they canceled the whole press conference, even Brandon Rios. So to me, that trip was a total bust. And I went out to Denver. There were no real big boxers or celebrities. Mikey Garcia was supposed to show up, but he didn't end up coming. So I got very minimal footage, and I spent all that money to get out there. So you can't really gauge it. So I think it's a spit in the face what HBO is doing, because put Crawford and Postal on regular HBO. There's a chance you don't get the numbers you want, but there's a chance you do. You know what I mean? And it's more respectable for your brand. It's more integrity than trying to make everything, like you just said it. It's so aggravating. You're trying to make everything damn pay-per-view just so you make sure you get your cut. And that's just, I mean, it doesn't work like that. Like, here's another rant. See, you guys got me on some different stuff. You got me on a good vibe doing this Monday Mail Day. For example, the movie Get Out, I just went to see it for the first time too. I hadn't seen it, but heard everyone talking about it, posting that picture of that dude running. That movie had a very small budget. See, I like to read and learn little factoids and tidbits. But anyway, that movie by the dude from Key and Peele, Jordan Peele or whatever his name is, he directed it and wrote it. Had a very small budget for movie standards, very small budget, and they filmed it in less than a month, or basically a month, 28 days or something like that, right? So it got licensed or whatever, it comes out in theater. I don't know if they, whoever released it, whatever company, thought it was going to do as good as it did, but it ended up becoming a high-grossing movie for such a small production. It got like 100 million gross because people were obviously word of mouth, went to see it and liked it and told people about it, went to see it twice, stuff like that. So it did very well. So, you know what I mean? You can't really gauge trends. Like, he didn't even spend that much money on it. Same thing with like a Blair Witch. They didn't even really spend that much money on the movie, and then it turned out people went out to see it. But they probably didn't even expect it to do as well as it did, versus you had that movie Battleship with like Liam Neeson and Rihanna, huge budget, and it flopped at the box office. You know what I mean? That Jake Gyllenhaal Disney movie, Prince of Persia or whatever it was called, flopped, and they have these big budgets. And then you have this Jordan Peele small ass movie that did better. So HBO needs to keep that in mind. You know what I mean? It takes money to make money, and you just do what's right by the consumer, and usually it'll all work out in the end. That's my little rant. Next question, Motion Alex. Who do you want to see Loma fight next? I have a couple of people. Mikey Garcia, because they're going back and forth, and they both won it at 135. So I would love to see that. It doesn't have to be that. He doesn't have to leave his division to me. But if they're both talking shit and won it, make the fight. Orlando Salido. He got to clear that. Clear the air. Give Salido what he wants. Show your improvements. And if you could beat him, beat him. But I don't know. I can't say he's high tech in the Matrix if he can't beat the style that beat him. You know what I mean? Every great fighter, for the most part, had to do it. Had to have to do a rematch. Oscar De La Hoya loses to Shane Mosley, and then he rematches him. Floyd Mayweather had a controversial fight with Castillo. Same year, he rematched him. Ward had a controversial fight with Kovalev. Now he's rematching him. So you got to get that Salido rematch in there. Other than that, Tank Davis, I would like to see if they feel he's ready. And maybe the other guy that beat Francisco Vargas, Miguel Berchelt or whatever. Those are the fights I want to see for Lomachenko next. Motion Alex, another question. Do you want Tank to take one more tune-up after he fights the dude in the UK, Liam Walsh, or you want to see him unify with Loma right after the fight in the UK? I mean, we got to wait and see, because not only does he have to go to the UK and win, he has to look good in doing it. If he struggles a lot with Liam Walsh, then he's clearly not going to be ready for Lomachenko. That's just, Tank's my dude, but I mean, that's what it is. Lomachenko is the best person in the division. He's a champion and he's dominating. So we have to see what Tank looks like versus Liam Walsh. So you have to re-ask that question after I see that fight. But I mean, it's really up to his team, to be honest. If they want to fight it, I think he should take tune-up fights. You don't have to, like David Lemieux, perfect example. David Lemieux looked great versus Curtis Stevens, but he should have took fights like that after the Hassan Indam, where he won the vacant IBF title, instead of immediately going into a Golovkin fight. Build up to that. Fight a tough power puncher like Curtis Stevens. Get your confidence because you knocked him out like crazy, right? And then go after a Golovkin after one or two fights. That's how you should do it. Same thing with, I mean, it doesn't matter who it is, this is how I feel. Joe Smith Jr. Okay, you just beat Andres Fanfare, great win, upset him, first round knockout. You knocked out a legend who had never been knocked out, Bernard Hopkins. Fight a Sean Monahan or, a top 10, 15 guy, and then start trying to go after Wards and Kovalevs. But it's a process. You don't just immediately do it. All right, same thing with Joshua. He's just now fighting Klitschko, but he beat Charles Martin to become a champion with the IBF. And then who did he fight? He fought other people he was likely to beat. Dominique Brazil, Eric Molina, and guys like that. Dillian White. I think that was after becoming a champion. But anyway, that's the thing. He got the experience on the job. Now he's at his highest confidence because he knocked all them dudes out and he's fighting Klitschko. So Tank, like all champions, should do that. Build up to the crescendo of whoever's the best in your division. Unless it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and you just have to take it right now. But get the on-the-job experience so you don't embarrass yourself and you put up the best possible fight. Because ultimately, isn't that what we want to see as fans? The two people who are elite, the Danny Garcia and Keith Thurman. Garcia got some tune-ups. Paulie Malignaggi, Guerrero, and Samuel Vargas. Those guys weren't favored to beat him. He didn't fight Errol Spence, then Kell Brook, and then fight Keith Thurman. So, yeah, I suggest everybody crescendo up to the big fights in your division. Next question, Enrico Shimada. Hey, Ego, hope all good. Yes, I want to ask about Canelo at his new weight. Maybe it will be good for him to come up in weight so he don't have to sweat his ass out, to make weight. But do you think the added weight might give him stamina issues? Because a common critique toward him earlier in his career has been that he don't have enough endurance to make 12 rounds. What do you think? Honestly, May 6th, that's why I'm watching that, because there are questions. That's a very good question, and we don't know. I mean, there's no way I could predict how he's going to look at a new weight, or anybody. I could be like, oh, Crawford, he's such a great fighter. I think he'll do good at 147, but the reality is I don't know. You know what I mean? I have to see him at 147. Same thing with Jamal Charlo. He's a great fighter. He looked sensational his last outing at 154. Knocked out Julian J. Rock Williams. Props. I don't know how he does at 160. Lemieux can crack. Danny Jacobs could crack. Golovkin could crack. I don't know how he takes a punch up there. You know what I'm saying? And that's the same thing with Canelo. He's moving up all these pounds, fighting a naturally bigger person. I don't know. So it's really a 50-50 on that front. And I do know the stamina issues because he showed it in fights with Shane Mosley, even the Trout fight. He found out he was up in the open scoring, and he was just like, fuck it, and just kind of coasted to a win after the knockdown. You know what I mean? And the knockdown kind of came because of the open scoring, because Austin Trout knew he needed to knock out the win, so he got super aggressive in a fight that was much closer than the open scoring showed, and then he got knocked down as a result. So it is what it is, but it's really 50-50. He might be improved because he has to cut less weight and he just eats better and feels better and replenishes better, and it's more comfortable and more natural for his body to be doing that at 26, because most men stop puberty around 21 to 26 years old. So he's right at that mark where he's probably like as full as he's gonna grow. Like, I mean, obviously people get fat and different things happen, but that's usually when your puberty stops and things like that. So he's probably is either going to be comfortable, real comfortable, because this is more natural for him to make, or he could have stamina issues. He could lose speed. These are all questions that I guess we have to wait and find out May 6th. That's a very good question, but unfortunately I can't answer it because I'd have to see. I mean, in training on the mitts and stuff, he still looks like he carried up his speed. His power looks good, but that's on mitts. We got to see in the actual fight, because it's different when someone's punching you back and they're bigger than you. Next question, D-Boy206. What up, Ego? I'm going to keep hitting you, pause, every week with more and more questions. I respect what you do, and this one of the better things that I like about what you're doing is lets us know you care about what your subs think. Thank you. On to my question. So one of my big worries about Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. was the weight cut, but I just found out that he fights or used to fight at middleweight. So do you think that the weight going to play a big role, or do you think he will be okay? Please give us your thoughts on it. He did used to fight at middleweight, but that was years ago, and a lot's changed since then. So it's still, he's not to the finish line yet. He looks like he's in good shape, but he still has pounds to drop, and that's the reality of it. He's, like I said, he looks like he's doing what he's supposed to be doing, which is a good sign. But just because he fought at middleweight, it doesn't matter at this point, because so much has changed since then. When he fought at middleweight, he was fighting guys like Sergio Martinez, a guy who's now retired. Goes to show you how long ago that was. So it's different, because he moved up to light heavyweight. He fought Reyes, and he missed weigh-ins and stuff. So a lot's happened since he did fight at middleweight. So he's not there yet. He's not to the finish line. But I think he should be all right if he's training right, and he has Mimo Heredia in the right team telling him how to reach the target comfortably. He should be good. But just because he fought years ago, that's like James Toney. He fought Roy Jones back in the day in a much lighter, but then he, as his career advanced, he went up to heavyweight and shit, so he wouldn't be able to go back down. It's kind of like seasoning food. If you put too little salt in, you can add a little more salt to get it how you want it to taste. But if you put too much salt in, you can't really reverse that. You know what I'm saying? It's harder to reverse that. You can start putting other stuff to try to counterbalance it and stuff, but it's easier to gradually add seasoning and add salt than it is to overdo it and then try to reverse it. So that's kind of what it is with Chavez Jr. is you can't always reverse that. You went up to light heavyweight, you missed a ton of weigh-ins, so you know what I mean? Trying to get back down to a lighter weight, he could still struggle with it. And that's just kind of how I see it. But it looks to me so far so good. Next question, Seth, set for life, 19th. Did Lomachenko punches look more powerful versus Sosa than they did versus Nicholas Walters? I don't really think so. I think Lomachenko's power is overrated. I think he beat you down more psychologically. Again, to me, he has like an Amir Khan power where you have to, you know, you're in the ring with the person, but he's not devastating people with his punching power. So I didn't really notice that. He looked more confident, and it's just different. I think he might have respected Nicholas Walters' size and his punching power, like per his record, more than he did in technique and stuff, more than Jason Sosa. So maybe he was more committal to a Jason Sosa because he probably felt Walters beat Sosa and was a better fighter, stronger fighter, so he had to be careful. And then with Jason Sosa, he probably knew you fight 400 amateurs, you probably know what style is going to give you the most problems. He probably knew that the Sosa fight was going to be more of a walk in the park. Nicholas Walters is still dangerous. That's why they call him the Axeman. So you still have to be respectful of his power and build up to your rhythm. So I just think styles make fights, and Sosa is a little bit more, even though he's tough and rugged. If you watch his fight, like I said, he got knocked down by Javier Fortuna. I thought Walters beat him. So I think Lomachenko went into the fight respecting him a little bit less and knew what he could get away with a little bit more. So that's why he got more confident. Plus he keeps winning, so that's enhancing his confidence as well. Next question is from Araya Messi. Why do black boxers like Walters and now Michael Hunter fight skillful boxers like Loma and Usyk immediately after a year layoff? It seems that black boxers seem to be the ones that does this. Could this be because they are broke and needed the money? Either way, it seems that black boxers seem to be doing this more often than money. Like, I don't know. That's kind of stereotypical. I can't say it's because they're broke and need money, but money could be a part of it in terms of not necessarily being broke, but you get starved out by a promoter. Top Rank had Walters on the shelf. They try to make the fight in the summertime, and he didn't like the purse split, so they didn't put him in no other fights. Meanwhile, even though the Lomachenko Walters fight didn't happen in the summer, Lomachenko got to fight Rocky Martinez. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's more the promoters and whatnot who are starving out certain fighters. You know what I mean? Okay, you don't want to fight the guy we want you to fight for the money we want you to fight? Okay, you don't fight nobody. Because if you notice, Walters, he took less money than what he initially didn't like in the first offer. They offered him money in the summertime, and he came back in November and took less money. So clearly a promoter trick, because why would a man be willing to take less? If he put his foot down in the summer and said, I'm not fighting you for $450,000, $500,000, but then in November you offer him, that's because he's starved out. You know what I mean? Old classic Eddie Murphy joke. Shout out to the legend Eddie Murphy. Check out Eddie Murphy Raw. He was like talking about how girls giving it up after they made you wait. You know what I mean? Giving up the box and giving you sex or whatever. And he was like, you finally get it. And you're like, oh, this is the best pussy I ever had. And he's like, it's not the best. He said, she just made you wait. You waited so long, so now it feels like the best. He said, if you starving and somebody give you a cracker, you're going to be like, God damn, this is the best cracker I ever had. What's this, Ritz? That's the Eddie Murphy joke. If you starve someone so much and you give them a cracker, of course they're going to be, God damn, this is a good cracker. This is the best cracker I ever had. This is a Ritz. Same thing with these boxers. They have families, they have lives, they spend money. You know what I'm saying? So if Walters is on the shelf and he's like, fuck, okay, I guess I will fight Lomachenko for $350,000 or whatever they offered him the second go. You know what I mean? So I think if you're saying it's black boxers, if anything, it's more a tribute to the promoters putting black boxers on the shelf or not getting them certain fights, and then other promoters seeing that and being like, oh yeah, this will look good. He's an undefeated fighter and he ain't fought in a while. And our guy's been mad active. That's my thoughts. Next question, Brian Olia. Ego, thank you for your grinding content. No problem. Quick question. What's your first impression on the possible Mikey versus Lomachenko fight? Love it. Great fight. All for it. Have no problems with it. Difficult fight. A lot more difficult than when I'm reading the comment section. A lot of people are acting like this is a easy work win for Lomachenko. I clearly don't see that. Lomachenko is a great fighter. He throws punches and bunches. He's gaining confidence. But Mikey Garcia, I was at his last fight live. No joke. He has single shot debilitating power, and Loma would be the one moving up. They're not talking about Mikey Garcia coming down to 30, so that means Lomachenko has to go up another 5 pounds. If you lose a hair of speed, if you lose a little bit of reaction time putting on more muscle, or then it's a different fight. If guys 5 pounds lighter are hitting significantly harder, like for example, here's an example for you guys. You know, I try to give you guys some comparative things to look at. If Diaz Latishinin, who has a 90% knockout ratio, fought Jason Sosa, do you believe that Jason Sosa would have knocked him out with a single punch? Yes or no? Okay then. But Mikey Garcia at 35 did. So that shows that Mikey Garcia is a puncher at 35. His power carried up and he's strong. I really don't know if a guy from 130 like Miguel Berchelt or Nicholas Walters, even good punchers at 130, I don't know if they would have moved up to 135. And Diaz Latishinin, he had knocked out a guy for the title. He had, I believe, knocked down Ricky Burns, but I know he beat him, right? So he did have a couple of names on his resume. I don't know if they would have knocked him out like that. So moving up 5 pounds is not as easy as people think. Now, Loma is uber talented, so he has skills to move up and be successful in the division, and he's not going to be at too much deficits. When he starts getting to 140, 147, that's kind of pushing it for his frame and his style. It's fan friendly because he's more offensive, but he also is there to be hit more than somebody who's completely content playing counterpuncher like a Rigondeaux or a Floyd Mayweather. But Floyd could do it all. But a lot of times, or sometimes, if you find a bigger man, he might play counterpuncher for a good amount of the fight. So Lomachenko's aggression, as he starts fighting naturally bigger people, could work against him. And Mikey is no joke. So that's how I see it. It's a good fight. Both fighters have a chance. It's 50-50. But Lomachenko, again, I don't think his power is really what's doing it and frustrating people as much as his overall skill, movement. He's fidgety, he's squirrely, frustrating, and breaking them down mentally because he keeps getting off shots and they're getting off nothing. You know what I mean? Mikey Garcia laid people out where they're like, you know what I mean? It's like they can't continue type shit. So, interesting style conflict, good fight. I like it. I love it. So, hopefully they can get it done. Next question comes from Knowledge of Self-Determination. Ego, what up? What the fuck is good with Devin Alexander? And I got Terrence Crawford by UD over Felix. What about you? Crawford, I'm not sleeping on Diaz. I think he's a good fighter, but I think Crawford is just really special. He has a height advantage too, and more big fight experience to me. Gamboa, he's headlined in Omaha a couple of times. Ray Beltran, so he just has overall better pro level experience, even though Diaz has a gold medal. So I would lean towards Terrence Crawford, but Diaz is no slouch. So if Terrence Crawford does what I haven't seen him do so far, which is slack off in training camp, which I don't think that's really in his demeanor. He's just a competitive person, but as long as he's connecting on all cylinders and connecting the dots in the training camp, I think he got it. If he stops Diaz, I'd be really impressed. Devin Alexander, I don't really know. After the Amir Khan shutout loss and losing to Aaron Martinez, he kind of went back to the drawing board. I follow him on Instagram, and he posts some like memes and stuff. And I don't know. I just haven't really heard from him, so I don't really know what's up with him. I just seen him on social media. Next question, Boxing IQ. Big fan, Ego 100. Thank you. Do you think HBO's holding the Triple G versus Canelo fight back till Triple G gets old, making it a passing of the torch type of fight since they put so much money in Triple G when Canelo left to fight on Showtime? They may want to get as much from Triple G as they can before he loses or lost. I don't think that's the case because actually HBO in the whole matter of Canelo versus Triple G, they kind of sweat they kind of sweat Canelo in that situation, and it seemed like they blamed him. Like when they asked him fights after Liam Smith, just listen to the interviews, go back to listen to that, listen to the Amir Khan. They kind of keep bringing up Golovkin. It's like, I think they want the fight because, like I said earlier, I don't think HBO is true. They have 1 foot out, 1 foot in the boxing business. That's how it seems. And if not, then they would have a better response to this Showtime calendar. Showtime, they're putting on Leo Santa Cruz, Carl Frampton with Mikey Garcia, Adrian Broner, Tank Davis versus Pedraza title fight, James DeGale versus Badu Jack title fight, right? And they have all these fights, Kell Brook versus Showtime or Kell Brook versus Errol Spence on Showtime, and all these fights that they've been doing, right? Clarissa Shields, everything. And HBO really hasn't even upped their calendar. So to me, I think they would do a Canelo Triple G because that's instant. They will make their money for sure. You know what I mean? Because it's a fight people have been talking about for years now. So I don't think HBO is holding it back. I think they want it actually because they're actually putting some pressure on Canelo in those post-fight interviews and stuff like that. If anybody's trying to wait for Triple G to age, I would say it would be Golden Boy. But Triple G had a birthday literally a couple days ago, and he's 35 now. So I don't know how much older they want him to get. His last 2 performances, people said he got exposed, whether you agree with it or not. I mean, he's not getting any younger, right? And people are seeing more and more vulnerability. So I think the time is now. They got to make it before one of them loses or looks suspect, even more so than what's been the case so far. Next question is from Marv Beck. Ego, great work. I appreciate the unbiased work you do, which leads me to the question, can you name an unbiased commentator on HBO boxing except Roy Jones? And can you give your insight on why HBO doesn't put more boxers and former boxers to assist in boxing commentary? By the way, can't wait for Ego Gears. When's it coming out? Now, as far as the gear, I already got the hats. I'm looking at them right now. It's in my room. So I have them in a box. I just have to get the logistics of, I got to put them on the website and all that details, do a photo shoot with the different colors available and get it organized. And so far, I've just been kind of grinding, so I put that on the back burner. But you guys will be the second to know after I get everything squared away as far as when it's coming out, when people can purchase it, how to purchase it, stuff like that. Again, as far as your first question, your actual question, I don't know. I don't work for HBO, so I don't know. I think Roy Jones is the best person. He's a fighter, you know what I mean? He has the best insight. He picks up on things before they happen, which is, you can tell who knows their boxing because they can see the storm coming. You know what I mean? It's like a good meteorologist. They don't wait until the thunder strikes. They, like, Roy Jones will say some stuff, and then when it happens, it's not a big surprise. But if you listen to Harold Letterman or like a Jim Lampley, particularly, if you listen to their commentary, the way they call the fight, when something happens that they didn't expect to, I guess, the fighter that, like the home fighter that they're kind of rooting for, it's like a big shocker, because if you listen to their commentary, they wouldn't be leading you in the direction of, this is a competitive fight, or I see this guy working the body. So when the guy stops the other guy to the body, they're like, oh, what happened? Like, what? You couldn't see that because you're too busy like cheerleading for one person. So I don't know. I don't really know that. And Roy's the best to me. Andre Ward, when he's on there, two fighters, and it's no coincidence. So I don't know why they don't invest in more, but with budget cuts and stuff, maybe that's why they don't get more fighters on the panel. You know what I mean? They kind of just use Ward and Roy Jones. Maybe a conflict of interest. I don't know. Maybe it's money. Maybe they're punch drunk or something. I don't know. That's my thoughts on HBO commentary, I guess. Next question, Keith Mathis, one fresh to death. Ego, my daughter's in the hospital. Sorry to hear that. So I'm going to miss the Lomachenko fight. Just want your input on how the fight went, because I know you're not going to be biased. Well, first of all, I hope your daughter is okay and doing good. Second of all, the fight was one-sided. I did like a 25-minute breakdown or whatever, even though it's a really one-sided fight. So you didn't miss anything if you're looking for competitive action. Lomachenko shined. He looked good. Crazy footwork, punches and bunches. Jason Sosa, he would almost just kind of cover up. He took a couple stands where he tried to land something, landed a good body shot, but you didn't really ultimately miss anything because it was very one-sided. And then it was just too much for Jason Sosa, and he needed a knockout to win. It didn't look like he was getting anywhere closer to that, so they stopped it in the ninth. Next question, Dutch ENT. What up, Ego? What's up? Do you think American fighters should fight overseas more often, since they seem to get more respect over there? Definitely. I think it's a good idea. And not even just the respect. The UK fans are great. British fans are great. They don't seem to care if you're Muslim, if you're black, you're white, you're green, if you're tall, you're short, what division. So that's one reason. Another big reason is you need to up your profile around the world. If you want to be a pay-per-view star, a worldwide star, people got to know about you. Simple as that. Conor McGregor in the UFC, he's doing a good job of that. He came over from Ireland, came over to the States, making a name for himself. If he goes out in Vegas, I'm sure somebody's going to recognize him. You know what I mean? So going over to different areas, it shows the fans that you're a people person and you're willing to travel. And it's part of the business, part of the branding. You know what I mean? I thought it was good when they brought Canelo fighting a UK fighter, Amir Khan. They at least went to the UK. So those are all good things. So, and Canelo looks like he's from the UK. So I'm never opposed to something like that. I think it'll be great for Tank Davis. And the UK fighters are so good that even if you knock out their fighter, you know what I mean, and have a strong performance and everything's on the up and up, a fair knockout win or whatever, they're usually like, man, that guy's good. Go look at Cannon Briggs' video when he went out there for a Joshua fight or something. They were like, let's go, champ. Let's go, champ. And they were feeling him. And he kind of just like made himself popping. So yeah, I think the UK is just great overall. Next question is from Brandon Soledad. What do you make of Canelo's sparring partner Shabransky saying Canelo is hitting like a light heavyweight? I don't know. I feel multiple ways. One, a lot of people were saying he was hitting like a heavyweight. You know what I mean? That's not what he said. I seen the interview. He said light heavyweight. So that's just a clarification. Nobody said he was hitting like a heavyweight. which is a big difference. And if they were to say that, I'd be like, they're lying. You can't tell me Canelo's hitting as hard as Deontay Wilder or Joshua at whatever weight he's at right now, 160, 180 or whatever. He's not hitting that hard. If you say that, you probably haven't sparred them dudes. You know what I mean? Andy Ruiz even. But him saying he hits like a light heavyweight, I mean, that's good. Part of power is not just part of power is your technique, how you deliver it, turning your punches, accuracy, ring IQ, because you have to get the full, like, you got to look at it. If two fighters are good, no matter if one's better or elite or whatever, most guys at this level, like Shabransky, Canelo, they've been fighting for a lifetime, their lifetime, right? So the whole goal is, even if you have a lousy defense or whatever, you're trying to win. It's like a competition, you know what I mean? You're trying to get the best of Canelo, he's trying to get the best of you, you're trying to work on stuff. So they have, it's not like Canelo fighting a random guy in front of the deli, you know what I'm saying? So they know little stuff, like, that's why I say ring IQ, because you know little stuff. You got a guy who's resisting and trying to have his way with you, pause, and you're trying to implement your game plan, and you could still succeed. So that takes a level of ring IQ to catch somebody like, oh, he just gasped for breath, so I'm gonna punch him in the stomach. You know what I mean? And part of power to me comes from that too, catching people at the right time. Mayweather's great at it, like when people are caught off guard and then he'll punch you in the stomach. That takes it might not look like a Golovkin assault or whatever, but that's definitely deadly. And you'll see people, even the Maidana second fight, Maidana slowed down from that first fight because Floyd went to the body more, which he started, but when Maidana was so rough and tumble, he was just adjusting, and he did it in the second fight, and that takes the wind out of you. So I mean, it's possible, but at the same time, Shabransky's with Golden Boy. This is the other thing. Shabransky's with Golden Boy. He's probably getting paid to spar Canelo. Canelo's, I mean, multi-millionaire. So, I mean, I don't really expect him to say anything different. Of course, you're going to say he's powerful. You know what I mean? He's going to be like, man, I didn't really feel his punches in front of his Chavez Jr. fight. So, I think some of it, it's hard to tell because you don't really know, like, it's not really about being fake. It's just you're not going to disrespect someone who's paying you, who's your friend, or who has you in their camp. You know what I mean? And they're a star. So I don't know. You can't really tell. He could be putting too much on it, or maybe Canelo really does hit like a light heavyweight to him. I don't think it's quite there. You know what I mean? I know Canelo has power, but I can't see Canelo hitting as hard as Kovalev or Artur Beterbiev. That's a light heavyweight. You know what I'm saying? So that's just my personal opinion. I mean, what can we expect sparring partners to say? Now, if you weren't in camp with them and then you're telling your tale of what happened, maybe that's different. Like Gilberto Ramirez, somebody who sparred with him in the past, or somebody who doesn't like the person and they're still giving them credit, then it's truthful. But while guys are in camp, it's kind of hard to tell what's true or false. Are they embellishing? Are they being 100% honest? You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, different people feel different things. You know what I mean? He could have been like, oh, Sullivan Barrera was hitting like a heavyweight. You know what I'm saying? So that's just my take on it. We'll see if he's hitting like a light heavyweight. If he's able to stop Canelo, then Shabransky, or if Canelo's able to stop Chavez Jr., Shabransky might have been on to something. That's my thoughts. Monday Mail Day, it's a wrap. Let me know how you think I did. If I didn't get to your question, try again next week. That's about it. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video, it's Ego signing off.